Welcome to the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Anita Brooks, and here you'll find teaching topics, interviews, conversations, and coaching tips, all designed to help you level up. We all lead someone. The question is, are we leading well, exceptionally well? So join me on a quest, not for perfection, but absolutely for exceptional leadership. Welcome back. In some form and at some time, every leader has to address profitability. Tiny businesses cannot continue if they don't average some kind of profit every day. A small but larger organization might be able to withstand small profit losses for a few months, but it won't take long before it catches up. Large businesses and corporations can often bleed profits for years before the inevitable happens, and the world is shocked when they have to close their doors and thousands of people lose their jobs. I do not want this to happen to you. So today, I want to discuss increasing net profits in a way that initially makes my business coaching clients uncomfortable. But to date, pretty much all of them have thanked me for this. And there's nothing like telling a true story about a recent situation that embodies a typical scenario for a lot of businesses, especially small businesses. So I want to share with you about a client I'll call Andrew. He operates a small business. They gross just over $2 million annually. But though his revenues were good and had steadily risen over the previous 5 years, Andrew faced a dilemma. Despite strong sales, the company's profit margins were shrinking. He and his employees were working more, but he was earning less, and he needed help. I started when I was first called into Andrew's business by helping evaluate the net profit margins on every product they offered. Now, as an aside, I've done something similar with service-based businesses, simply assessing the net profits for each service they offer versus a product. But for Andrew's company, we scrutinized every expense associated with each product they had for sale. And we started out by doing this in their previous quarter. So we looked at everything from the cost of the raw materials to operational costs to labor. And when we compared the expenses to the total revenue for that same quarter, and we went back 5 years, by the way, evaluating quarter by quarter, we found some very interesting and frankly, some very concerning things. Though there were some general ledger items that required further digging into, and we did need to break out some details within some of those general ledger items for deeper analysis because we just needed to ensure accuracy. But what we were able to determine made the numbers clear. The business's expenses had steadily increased over time, but the prices of their products had not. And this is fairly common, probably a lot more common than a lot of people would realize. Businesses they're kind of like human beings. We get into habits, right? And we just start to do the same things that we've done for a long time. And we have good intentions. We mean to maybe assess or evaluate a situation. Maybe we mean to work on some intentional improvements, but we keep putting it off or we keep letting other things get in the way. Well, that's what happens in businesses oftentimes when it comes to looking at what their prices are and then evaluating that against profit margins. So in the case of Andrew's business, the next thing that we did was we benchmarked his products against his competitors, just to see where each one's product features and benefits were, as well as the pricing. And then we ranked them, and we ranked each of the products of Andrew's business next to the competitors. And we found that in every case, Andrew's products were substantially lower in price than the comparable products. But we also found that when we looked at the features and benefits, most of the time, his products outranked the competitors. But if you were a consumer looking at simply pricing, you might imagine that the competitor had a better product. So there was a lot more digging into that we needed to do for Andrew. So I explained to Andrew that he needed a price increase. Now, like many clients that I have, especially newer ones, he was hesitant at first, and it was understandable because the fear of losing customers is real. But when it comes to exceptional leadership, we have to be very, very careful that we do not make fear-based decisions. We need to make fact-based decisions. We need to make sure that we do analysis. We have verifiable, credible evidence to support the things that we believe. And we really have to be careful just trusting our gut because, frankly, our gut can get us in trouble sometimes. So with Andrew, I reassured him, and I first started by showing him just product by product how his prices were significantly lower than his competitors. And again, by features and benefits, those descriptions, he obviously had a better quality product. So that helped alleviate some of his concerns. But then I also encouraged him to do some informal spot surveys on social media and with some in-person customers and potential customers. That way he could gain a better understanding of their true thoughts instead of just guessing or trying to figure it out. But in doing so, what Andrew discovered surprised him. Although it was not new news to me because I've seen this kind of scenario happen many, many times with clients. But Andrew learned that his products were priced too low for sure, but it was not only a problem for the profitability and sustainability of his business, but he came to the realization by especially the in-person conversations that he had with several people that when something appears too cheap, psychologically, customers can believe that there is a quality issue, even when the quality is superior. And this was Andrew's situation. So once he had that information, and again, understand, I'm working with him in documenting all of this. So not only does he have this mental understanding, but as we're going through and we're gathering data, he begins to have a visual understanding that helps reinforce and support that what he is believing that he sees is actually true. And I cannot tell you how important it is to create those kind of visuals for you in your business when you're doing any kind of analysis. One, it's just kind of a double check system. Two, it does provide comfort and confidence for you and confirmation. But three, it assures that you don't get off track anywhere as you go along the line either. So by having those resources in place, I was able to help Andrew devise a strategy to communicate an initial price increase to his customers. Over time, we planned to ease his company into gently elevating what they charged by small and mid-level increments that would continue over time for approximately 18 months. But this would ensure that his pricing aligned with where it should be based on raw material, operational, and labor costs. The adjustments would also put the prices of his products at slightly higher than his competitors. And Andrew had already committed by this point to hire my P4 Power Coaching team and I for a marketing scope as that 18-month goal approached. So we knew that that was coming down the pike. And what that helped us do as we were working on this coaching scope was to strategically build a brand congruent message for his business where we would be able to showcase the superior quality for what they sold, and how it would make customers' lives better. So before we were ready to do that, though, we needed to help Andrew craft some basic but crucial communication about his first pricing steps. So as I'm talking, hopefully you're understanding, we are working from the end backwards. So we know where we're going in that 18-month span. We know what we're going to do to build brand congruency, to strengthen messaging, and to help create an emotional connection for their customer base with their products. But with that, then we begin to work backwards and we look at each of the steps that we need to take along the way that's going to bring us to that end. And then we know that the very first one we need to do is to help acclimate the customers as easily and comfortably as possible to the initial smaller pricing increase that he needed to do. So we worked with Andrew and his team and we drafted an email explaining the reasons behind the increase. We explained some of the rising costs they had endured over the past few years, and we reinforced the company's continued commitment to produce high-quality products. We emphasized the craftsmanship, the premium materials they used, and the unique designs that made their products stand out. And so what we were doing is we were helping Andrew and his team to communicate the why behind the what. The what being the pricing increase that was necessary for them to be able to continue staying operational. But the why, what were all the elements that drove the necessity for that price increase? And so we were able to do that pretty well. I also worked with Andrew, though, in his sales and customer service team to proactively be prepared for any resistance and pushback. And so one of the things that we came up with was introducing a tiered pricing system with different ranges of products at different price points. This way, customers could choose what suited them best, making the increase seem less daunting. And again, going to that psychological piece, because there's a lot of psychology in what I do in my business coaching practice, because I find that when you approach the practical things that you do with that psychological, that emotional element, then it magnifies exponentially the results that you can get. So for Andrew's business, what this did was it helped customers feel like there wasn't something being forced on them with this 3-tiered system, but it made them feel as if they had a choice. And that's an emotional connect for human beings. No human being wants to feel as if they are being dictated to. No human being wants to feel as if they're being controlled. They don't want to feel as if they have no choice. So by putting choice in their hands, it helps soften the blow whenever you need to do a necessary price increase. Well, one of the favorite things that I do as a business coach is to also find ways to help my clients' customers see my client as the good guy. So in Andrew's case, as a gesture of goodwill, I suggested that he grandfather existing customers' prices in for a period of time. So this meant that anyone who had bought from Andrew in the previous 6 months would still get the old price for any additional purchases over the next 3 months after the new pricing went into place. Well, when you do something like that, you do look like a good guy. You look like someone who cares about the customers that have been with them for a long time. So many times I hear this complaint from people about companies that offer some kind of, financial boost or, bonus or a discount for new customers. And then, we're all standing there going, but what about me? Like, I've been a loyal, consistent paying customer that you can count on for years. So what are you doing for me? So you're going to reward this new person that you don't even know what kind of customer they're going to turn out to be, but I have a great track record with you. So what have you done for me lately? Well, this is one of those ways that you can kind of get the double benefit from it, because then you show a level of appreciation to them for being long-standing customers for you. But then you also get to take a little initial sting out of the price increase, which gives them some time to adapt and get themselves accustomed to it. Well, finally, I encouraged Andrew to remain open to feedback. When the email went out, some customers did express concerns, but Andrew's customer service staff, they did a great job of following the framework we had outlined when this happened. So the employees listened. They reassured customers about the quality and the value that they were getting, which, by the way, when you can do that, that helps to show a customer or prove to a customer that they can have confidence that they should buy from you. But in a few cases, they were even able to negotiate a slower transition to the newer pricing by working one-on-one with some of those customers. But we had worked all of this framework out before any of it happened. So one of the exercises that you need to do if you are going to implement any new pricing strategy is to go through an imaginary or a visionary exercise where you imagine some of the worst case scenarios. Like, what are your biggest fears of how people may react to this? Because again, one, that's something that can hold you back. But two, when you have a plan for how you're going to deal with that, when you have an understanding of what that may look like, then not only are you prepared if and when it happens, but it also helps you pull the trigger on something that you know you need to do anyway. So I definitely recommend going through that kind of exercise. So we had done that with Andrew's business, his customer service team and sales teams especially. And so they were ready when the customers pushed back. And it worked out really well. There were only a couple of cases that required Andrew to personally step in. But when he did, I was so proud of him because this was something else that we talked through as a group in advance. He made sure not to undermine his employees, but instead, he compassionately but professionally supported what they had already told the customers. So because of that, in both situations, the customers not only stayed, but they eventually expressed appreciation for the consistency and professionalism displayed by everyone at the company. You see, because Andrew did not confuse customers and frustrate employees by stepping in to tell customers what they wanted to hear or appease them in the moment, the customers actually gained confidence in the business. And a few months later, one of those two customers even referred a new fairly large customer. So it worked out extremely well. Over time, Andrew found that most of his customers stuck with them. The company's profit margins improved substantially. So employees as well as Andrew felt like they could breathe easier. And everyone got back to focusing on their work versus just living in the fear of Andrew maybe having to close the doors, because that's where they were at when I first came in. Because if you allow yourself to just deal with shrinking profit margins and you bury your head in the sand and hope it'll get better, or you think maybe, by ignoring it, maybe someone will come up with something or something will occur to you, you're going to get yourself in trouble. And I've seen many a business have to close because no one was willing to step forward and be proactive. And when I say no one, I mean leadership, because exceptional leadership deals with problems head on, especially profitability issues. See, before I concluded this part of my coaching scope with this business, I did help them take one more important step though, and I want to point this out. So things are going great. We had imagined all the processes, we imagined the pushback, we came up with frameworks and ways to deal with all of that. Customers, everyone is feeling more comfortable. But before I left this part of my coaching scope, I knew that there was one more piece that could have easily been missed, but because of my experience, I knew that I could not let that happen. And it was this. We developed an annual evaluation form for every product in Andrew's business. This way, it would ensure that several more years did not pass before they looked at net profitability of what they sold again. You see, unfortunately, too many organizations, they don't take that proactive and consistent and in-depth approach at assessing their pricing. Even if they do it, they think, oh, well, it's kind of like a one and done for a few more years. Don't make that mistake. That is so dangerous. Because if you do not act proactively, consistently, and look in depth at your pricing on a regular basis, and I suggest doing it annually, it not only weakens net profitability, but over time, it can endanger a business's sustainability. And again, I do not want this to be you. So leader, if it's been a while or never since your organization has evaluated the pricing of your products and or your services, depending on what kind of a business you're in, whether you're product-based or service-based, take the reins and see if what you're charging still makes sense. Benchmark against your competitors. Look at your material, operational, and labor costs. And I mean dig down to every detail, including the utility costs to keep the lights under and the heat or air on. Because all of these specifics matter, and they impact your net profits. You don't want to be like multiple clients I've worked with that when I first started going through these exercises, they discovered they were losing money on every sale. And a business cannot sustain ongoing loss for long. As I said earlier on this episode, depending on the size of your business, you may be able to muddle through or dog paddle your way through for a while, but you're not going to be able to do that forever. And even very big businesses that for a while can seem like they have unending pockets, they run out of finances. Because waste is waste, and waste will kill a business of any size. So make sure that you take the steps that I'm talking about to assess your pricing now if you have not done that for a while. And don't just do 2 or 3 and think, oh, I'm done. Please, please, please evaluate every single service you offer or every single product that you sell. Look at each one of them individually. There will be some that you will have the ability to have higher profit margins. There will be others that you are limited on the profit margins that you can achieve. That's okay. That should flush some things out, but you still need to have a realistic view. I strongly recommend creating a spreadsheet where you have all of these different products or services listed. You have the features and benefits that are there. You have benchmarking information where you have looked at competitors to see what they're charging for comparable products or services. What are the similarities that you have between what you offer? What are the differences? And are there any particulars that you can highlight that show that you have a better value or a higher quality for what you offer that may be similar to theirs? And then make sure that you're listing your pricing. And I've had a couple of clients that I've done with too. I will tell you there's one more benefit to doing this. So when you've done this for several years and you keep this spreadsheet, it becomes a really great historical marker. And so you can look at it and you can see like what level of price increase may make sense. If you've been consistently, edging prices up, let's say for the past 4 years, maybe in year 5, you don't do any price increase or it's very, very minimal. And then you may point that out to your customers to get you some more goodwill with them. But another thing that it does is when you can look back historically and you see how far you've come, as a leader, that can infuse you with some positive, purposeful energy. And if you've listened to my podcast at all, you know that I've mentioned before that it's true. It can feel lonely at the top in leadership, especially when it comes to whether you receive encouragement. Because so oftentimes when we're in any leadership position, people naturally bring their problems to us. They seldom think about bringing celebrations or coming and maybe even giving you a compliment for something you've done. Frankly, a lot of times there are things you're doing that no one else sees. So sometimes you have to find that inner inspiration and motivation within. And something like this very practical historical record of where you were and then how you moved upward. And on this spreadsheet, I believe you should have pricing, but I also think that you should have a column for gross margins and net profitability per product, per service. By doing that, though, what it can do is it can infuse you as a leader with that sense of accomplishment, that feeling that we're moving in the right direction. I'm leading our people in the right direction. And it can give you something to celebrate because maybe you're going through a challenging time in your leadership, in your business, in this moment. If you have something like this that you can pull out as a visual, sometimes that's the very thing that reminds you of why it's important that you are in your position for such a time as this and how you're making a difference. Because all of that net profitability, it's not simply a number. It's not just dollars and cents. What that represents are people's jobs, people's lives, people's family, their friends, sometimes their very health. Those numbers are a way that you can prove to yourself that you are making a positive difference in the lives of many people because you're helping them to have a job that they can count on, they can feel secure about. You can also know that you are doing the very best job you possibly can in this business. And I don't know what kind of business it is you may be leading, but I can assure you this. You give me a few minutes with you, let me ask you enough questions, and if you don't know that your business is making a difference in people's lives, I promise you, I'll see it. I'll be able to point it out, and I'll be able to paint that picture for you because I believe it's true. I don't say anything that I don't believe is true. But for you, as a leader, having this kind of a resource can make all the difference for your energy. And by the way, when you have positive energy, when you feel good about accomplishments, you know what else it does? It drives you to further achievement. It builds those creative juices inside of you, and it makes you want to do more. It causes ideas to trigger in your mind that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise because you're in such a healthy mental place. So leader, here's the thing. If you haven't been doing it up to this point, don't beat yourself up. You can start this today. You can start in this moment. Start building the spreadsheet. Start developing a plan. Dig in. But do something. Take the reins of the pricing of your products and or your services. Take the reins in ensuring that what you're pricing makes sense and it's going to lead to net profitability. See if what you're charging makes sense compared to a year ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Benchmark against your competitors. Look at all of those costs: material, operational, labor, utilities, insurance, taxes, all the things that you have to pay in order to keep those doors open. But make sure that you are keeping your finger on the pulse of profitability so you can continue providing jobs for the people that you're responsible for. And I'll say this, if this sounds daunting and overwhelming, get help. I know I would personally love to work with my P4 Power Coaching team to help you increase your income, prime your profits, and strengthen your sustainability. Because not only does your livelihood depend on that, but so does the livelihood of everyone you work with. And I'm passionate about helping protect American businesses and jobs. So in conclusion, just remember, as a leader, you are responsible. Your customers or clients, your employees, your community, and possibly a wider world is counting on you to ensure the net profitability of your organization so that you can keep your doors open. For everyone's good, don't put pricing evaluations off. Start digging into the details today. And until next time, don't forget, stay intentional. Be exceptional. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. There's magic in meeting with an objective, and I always have an objective for you, not only in these episodes, but also from the other resources I offer on my website, anitabrooks.com. That's ANITABROOKS.com. There you'll find information on digital courses, webinars, books, workbooks, of course, my in-person P4 Power Coaching for businesses and organizations. And if you need a speaker for your conference or your strategic retreat, I'm your gal. But I'm also excited to let you know about a new service that we're offering. For less than half the price of a daily Starbucks latte for a month, you can join our P4 Power Coaching community. This is a monthly membership where you'll get insider tips. And you'll also be able to join our monthly Zoom meetings that are one part strategy sessions, one part mastermind, one part networking, one part coaching. I can promise you, you'll not only learn from me, but you'll learn from others in the group. We'll also have monthly webinars as part of the P4 Power Coaching community, and we'll have coaching resources and exercises. And you'll get first opportunities and special offers for many of the other things that we have to offer. And of course, you will get leadership encouragements. The P4 Power Coaching community is all about growth, success, and celebrating our wins. And remember, it's never too late for a fresh start with fresh faith. So embrace your exceptional leadership impact with fresh resolve to make the difference you were made for.